Hello there, and welcome to The Woman Within, a podcast for the woman you are beneath all the roles. I'm your host, Nicole.
And I'm your co-host, Sarah. We invite you to slow down, tune in, and make some much-deserved space for yourself as you listen and reflect on today's episode.
If today's conversation speaks to you, we'd love to stay connected. Join our mailing list for updates and future offerings. You can find the link in the show notes below.
And one more small ask to help us grow. If you think this episode would resonate with someone you know, please share. Let's dive in.
Let's do it. Reconnecting with our cycles postpartum.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, girl. I'm going to cue you up.
Dive in.
Why are we talking about this?
It's a great question. Oh my gosh. Well, the first reason I remember why we wanted to talk about this was because I was like, okay, like next week we're going to be late luteal. Should we record? Because we've had several late luteal episodes, which, by the way, just for anybody who maybe is like, what the hell is she talking about? What, luteal? Because, we're all in different places with understanding our cycle and the phases and, the terms around it. Yeah. But anyways, the end of our cycle before we bleed, our brains get a little foggy. Sometimes we're not always super sure what we're talking about when we've been podcasting. And so we've just gone back and forth about, should we podcast when we're in this hormonal state? And we're lucky enough to be sort of in the same cycle. We have variations to our cycle lengths, but anyways. And so we're like, you know what? It was actually your idea. Let's record and let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first reason why we decided to have this be a topic. And then the second reason was because both you and I started having some interesting symptoms. Mine definitely more intense, but you still, the past couple have been dealing with just random things where both of us were wondering if we were pregnant because we both recently started trying. And so it's been an interesting new layer of awareness around what hormones can look like postpartum after having a baby, even 2 years post-baby, right? Because we always think early on, that's, I think, what gets highlighted with postpartum hormones is everything right after you have the baby and the baby blues and the postpartum depression and anxiety and the rage and all that stuff, which can be present at any point, not just at the beginning. But those are the things we're all sort of, quote unquote, more educated about. And then, especially for me, which we'll share more about our cycles before and our cycles after having a baby. But after breastfeeding for me specifically is when I was like, oh my God, what is happening to me? Is something wrong with me? And so it's been a really cool catalyst for us to learn more and open up the conversation for other women. See what you guys have been experiencing out there. But yeah, so that's why we're choosing to talk about this today. And I feel like the best place for us to start is just talking about our relationship to our cycles before having a baby, what that was like. And I don't know if you have any other things you want to tie into that, but I feel like if you want to start us off, take us back, Nicole, and tell you. Well, I do remember, I don't know if you want to take this into your share or not, but I know that you did have an experience with birth control that wasn't great. And so that kind of was a reason for you to have to get more familiar with your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate? Or
I just want to say that I'm so grateful to be raising a child in today's world where we actually have this information about our cycles. And I can't wait to teach Rhea about our cycle because we were not taught about our cycles. We were not taught about the hormone fluctuations. I was not even taught that you could only get pregnant for a handful of days every month. So the need to go on the pill when I had a boyfriend, I think I was 19 or 20 at the time, dating, I was going to say a boy. I guess he was a man. It's debatable.
Depends on,
It's debatable. But his mom was a nurse and she was just great and was kind of like a surrogate mother to me at that time in my life. And she took me to go get on the pill. And she's like, you guys are going to be active. You need to get on the pill. And I started lactating. I literally milk came out of my breasts, which I looked it up and it's a very small, it's like less than 1% of people have that reaction, but you know, just so sensitive to the hormones and the stopping of the cycle, because that's what
Mhm.
birth control does, is stopping the cycle, which at this point in my life, I really feel like our cycles are our sources of power. And we have been conditioned because we live in a masculine world. Sorry, I'm kind of on a
Mm.
soapbox right now, but we've been conditioned to strongly resonate with one part of our cycle, our follicular, as our progesterone is low and our estrogen is building, building, building. And then we're goddesses on our ovulation week. And then we're gremlins. We turn into gremlins. And I feel like that's because during our luteal, we're still trying to operate like we're in our follicular. In our follicular, I feel like we can operate more efficiently in a masculine world, like in the work world and efficiency and, productivity and all that. But yeah, we were never taught to like learn and align with our cycles. And so got off the pill, obviously.
Yeah, so was that short? I mean, were you
Um,
on it for like a month?
2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
It
Yeah.
was it was fast, and I was like, "This is
Not
not
working.
right. Yeah, this is not working for me." So, yeah, and then it was just sort of like pull-out game,
Mhm.
pull-out method or condoms, which my body didn't like condoms either. Um, and then literally never got pregnant and never had a scare, like, and then fast forward to Fit and Thick coming to an end and me starting my second business, Lully.
How old were you then?
I was like around 30. So I went through, yeah, like 15 years of my life, of my menstruating life, not understanding the ebbs and flows of hormones, which
Mhm.
is crazy. Um, and read this book by Alyssa Vitti called In the Flow. And it talks about understanding your hormonal cycles and actually aligning your life to that. She has a method called cycle syncing, in which you basically your life and your activities and your meals, your workouts follow your hormones and your cycle, not the other way around. Like you cater to your body and your biology, which when I say it like that, I'm like, duh,
I know.
duh. And when you do that, you have less of the symptoms that we talk about when it comes to luteal and menstrual, because you're just introverting more, you're not putting too much on your plate. But yeah, and then went on the journey of making space for it all, which was a lot of deconditioning, because I was like definitely in a hustle culture, girl boss pattern. And so part of my self love, self acceptance journey was accepting that I am a woman and I have cycles and I need to get in line with them. And then when I moved out to Colorado and I experienced seasons for the first time, everything clicked in for me, because I was able to say like, oh, this summer is ovulation and fall, is luteal, and like you're starting to contract. The days are getting longer. It's cold. You want to like bundle up, turn inward, and then winter is when you're menstruating. So
Mhm.
it was like this really cool parallel to witness outside and inside.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's cool. I love that
Oh,
comparison.
yeah.
Yeah, of the seasons, and being from Florida, like there's no seasons. So,
It's
yeah, which is so nice, but yeah, you're right. Like it was a new way of you experiencing the seasons and the rhythms
yes.
um through nature, but that's always happening within yourself. I love that. It's so cool.
Thanks.
But yeah, so my hormone story actually starts in high school with acne. That's
Mm,
when I started. Yeah, when did you start your period? Do you remember how old you were?
13 or 14.
Yeah, I was in 7th grade, so I think it was like 13. But anyway, just, super chill. pretty irregular, like nothing.
Irregular.
Yeah, you know how they're like at first, were you pretty regular right off the bat?
I don't recall.
Yeah, it's hard to remember, but I'm pretty sure I had like one, and then it took a while for my cycle to get normal. As a, new freshly menstruating young woman, I guess at the time, 13-year-old. But when I was in high school, my sophomore year of high school, I started getting hormonal acne. And so that was one of the reasons why I got on the pill. And my cycles were also a little irregular at that point too. And so there was clearly something hormonal going on. And I went to my OBGYN just for the yearly checkup. And she's like, oh yeah, like, let's put you on birth control. I was like, okay.
Did they check for hormones before they
No.
did that?
No.
Wait,
No.
wait,
She just wrote a prescription. I mean, it was so, yeah. I mean, it was so nonchalant. Yeah. Just like, okay, here you go. Like, that's it. And anyways, and honestly, like, it was very helpful for my acne. And so at that fragile age of being however old I was as a sophomore in high school. No, I was a senior in high school. My senior year of high school, on the dance team, like going to, and having a boyfriend and all that stuff. It was a huge part of my identity that I struggled with. And so the pill for me at that time was a godsend. And anyways, cleared it all up. And I was on the pill throughout college. Travis and I got married when I had a semester left in college. And then after that, I can't remember if I talked about this on the pod. I think I did.
You just mentioned it.
Yeah. And he was like, I think you should stop taking that. I was like, I think so too. And so I did. And my cycle came back. It was just super regular. And so that's when I really started to get to know my cycles, when I was 22, after being on birth control for 5 years. And you talking about when you were sharing your story, birth control makes you not ovulate. And so I'm like, I can't believe I didn't ovulate. I didn't have a real cycle for 5 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I wonder if you're going to like go into menopause later.
No, probably not. I don't think it's.
So then you're just going to release, because those eggs were being held.
Yeah. I'm not educated specifically around if it's the amount of eggs you have with menopause, or if it's more of just the hormonal shifting, like the shutting down of the ovaries producing hormones.
Estrogen. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
But anyways, and so, and then I just slowly got more familiar with my cycle, and I don't even remember like what educational things I had, but I remember at some point I started getting really familiar with my cervical mucus. And that has always been my biggest insight into how I know where I'm at in my cycle, in addition to understanding the hormonal changes. And when I was working for the supplement company, I did attend a lot of educational seminars, functional medicine seminars, hormone, based seminars and stuff like that. So I feel like that also taught me a lot about hormones, both male and female. But the book that I came across, and it wasn't actually until a little bit later when I was pretty comfortable with my cycle, but it made everything just like drop in. I was like, this is so great. I wish every young woman, like you were talking about, had this book. Oh my gosh.
What was the book? Tell us.
It's called Period Power. And I'll have to look up the author's name. I don't remember her name, but it was great. And she actually has one called Perimenopause Power or Menopause Power.
Maybe I should read
for
that.
For that other hormonal shift, which I think is great. But yeah, so that was the book that I read later on that just solidified everything I had been tapping into, I think, on my own, and then just by association, and getting more familiar with my cycle and using it and honoring it, right? And truthfully, I don't really ever feel like I was, because we opened the business in 2020. So I don't ever really feel like I had a true opportunity to really shift a ton of my lifestyle in response, like you were talking about with cycle syncing. But the awareness around what was happening in my body made me feel so much better about when the shifts happen and feeling like I wasn't crazy and there's actually a reason behind that shift, especially having a male partner, and educating them too.
Mm,
And just having the ability to differentiate like that this is normal and a, I don't know if we want to call it a good thing, but it's it's our power as
mhm.
women, and how we fluctuate is something we should not just educate ourselves with as women for empowerment, but also the people that are in our lives, especially our
Yeah,
partners. So
yeah,
yeah, but that's kind of my long ramble summary of where I started with my cycle.
yeah. I have a question for you,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna tell my acne story
Okay.
because you just made
You
me
have,
remember.
dude,
Yeah,
blocked it out.
I bl
I did too. I'm like, I don't ever want to feel that way again.
Um,
Oh.
so my question for you, as I'm hearing you talk, and especially when you introed it as in high school, struggling with acne. I mean, just like it's struggling with acne is challenging no matter what age, but specifically high school, we've talked about high school versions of ourselves and struggling with emotions and feeling sad and all of that. Do you feel like you noticed? I'm wondering if part of that is us going through luteal as teens and menstrual hormones and not knowing that it's happening, and so you kind of feel depressed and a loss of sense of comfort in your body. I mean, and then did you notice a shift in your that sadness quality that you had in high school once the acne cleared up and you didn't have a cycle?
Yeah,
So,
totally.
so
I always wonder, like, what was the acne rooted in? Is that sort of like what
no,
you're talking about, or?
I'm asking like teens teens deal with depression,
Mhm.
right? And anxiety.
Mm. Is that because of the where they're at in their hormonal
Yes,
cycle?
and that we just don't have education around it to be like,
Mm.
"Oh, well, I'm in my luteal, so I need to change my expectations of how I show up in the world, and I need to educate people, my friends, my family around like,
Yeah.
because we're just trying to show up and like that. I don't know if it can trigger shame, like that you can't show up in the same way and you
Right.
just don't know. But yeah, I guess my question was like once you were taking birth control and you didn't have a cycle anymore, which means you're not going through those hormonal waves. Did you notice a difference in your emotional highs and lows?
Yeah, no, I don't think I think I had a more hormonal imbalance. Like, I don't think I understand what you're asking.
Mhm.
No, I don't think it was like a lack of understanding of my cycle. I truly did have some
Okay.
hormonal imbalance
Okay.
because it was constant. It wasn't like ebbing and flowing with my
Okay.
cycle. It was just all the time. I mean, it sort of did, but no, it was like, and I think that's why the hormonal evening out with the birth control. So I definitely think I'm so curious of like what my experience would have been like if I would have done something else. And I don't know what that would look like. But when I didn't have a cycle anymore, I think it was just like not even, I don't even think that I was there. I was just so insecure about the physical
Yeah.
appearance of everything, especially like being on the dance team, that it wasn't even, I was just able to like go be with my friends and not be stressed
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
about how I looked, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but
Like
it's a great
you
question.
felt less sad and insecure because
Yeah.
your face cleared up.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just more confident
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
appearance.
Yeah.
What about you? Because it obviously, like, yeah,
What's
throwing
my
the
acne
question back.
my
No,
acne
well,
story?
and also what you asked me, is there something like, do you feel like that was,
I do. I mean, I wasn't on birth control in high school, so like that question doesn't entirely. And
mhm,
I
the first
wasn't
part of
on
it?
birth control long enough to see.
Yeah.
I wasn't even on birth control for
For a cycle.
for a full cycle to see if it did take away that um melancholy
Mhm.
aspect of me. But yeah, I do feel like in high school, part of my depression was a lack of understanding of the ebbs and flows of being a woman.
Mhm. That's
I
it.
mean, still to this day, I ask my mom if she notices a difference between her luteal, if she ever noticed a difference between her luteal and her follicular, and she's like, no. I was like,
Mm,
what?
yeah.
I didn't have it modeled, so, and it's fine, it's nothing against my mom, but yeah, it's just
I do feel like birth control does that, though. It just
it flatlines you, kind of,
flatlines
yeah,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But my story with acne that you made me think of
Yeah.
was also dealing with cystic,
Mhm.
what I maybe was hormonal acne. No, it wasn't hormonal. Well, maybe it was hormonal acne, and that I ended up going the more nutrition route.
Yeah.
So I went to my dermatologist, and they looked at my acne, and they're like, "We're going to put you on birth control, and we're going to put you on a testosterone blocker."
Mhm.
They didn't test my hormones,
Yeah.
girl. They're gonna put me on a testosterone blocker without testing my hormones. And then I already knew what birth control did to me. So I was like,
Mm.
no. And then I went to go see my esthetician. And she was like, I think you should go see this OBGYN. She's a naturopath. She's a functional OBGYN. And she'll like do a bunch of blood tests to get to the root of what's going on. And so which that now functional testing is like the standard. I feel
Yeah.
like it's everywhere, but at that time it was not. It was like groundbreaking.
Again, how old were you here?
Um, between 28 and 30.
Okay, so you were older than
Yeah.
I
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
wasn't high
Yeah.
school.
This
Yeah.
was like the start of my coming online with my hormones.
Gotcha.
And she tested my hormones. And at this time, I was also vegan.
Hmm.
I had been vegan for almost 4 years.
Hmm.
I had been vegan for 3 years. And at the first 2 years, veganism served me. It was beautiful. It was great. Then I started developing really crazy acne. And she looked at my labs. She's like, well, first of all, I'm really glad you listened to your intuition and you didn't take the testosterone blocker because your testosterone's low.
Hmm.
I was like, okay. By the way, that's Luna purring, if you can hear that. um, and then I just had like a bunch of nutritional deficiencies. I was low in D, I was low in zinc, I was low in B12. I had a few like metabolic pathway, uh, what are they called? I guess you call them
Mutations?
mutations, but I've talked to functional doctors that are like, they're just variants. They're not mutations, but
Mhm.
whatever. So, can't take cobalamin. I need to take methocobalamin. I need
Right.
to take like the methylated
Methylated
version
folate
of,
and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
methylated versions of things. And then a few other things that, she just put me on a supplement regimen. She put me on a stress reduction regimen. And she was like, hey, listen, if you just eat one piece of high quality grass fed and finished beef every week, we could reduce your supplement regimen by 50%. And I was like, no, because I was like, it was about the dogma at that time, doing it for the animals, doing it for the environment. Meanwhile, my body was
Mhm.
not in a state of wellness, partially because of the veganism. And I know that that's going to trigger some people and be polarizing, but for me, it was the truth. And so, yeah, went down that path and cured my acne, and without taking like any pharmaceuticals. And there was nothing topical that did it. It was all nutrition and stress reduction. And then I'm just going to kind of like weave in my veganism story because I feel like it's going to be a thread that some people are going to be like, wait, but what happened? Are you still vegan? So I was vegan when I moved out here and then started incorporating eggs every once in a while because I just felt like my body needed a little bit of support. And then my dad got cancer and my sister and I were living with him at the time. And it was like peak COVID. And we, he went the Western, what are
Chemo?
cancer doctors called?
Oncologist?
He went like had an
Oh, okay.
oncologist and, did radiation, did chemo. And I was like, Poppy, we're going to see a functional oncologist. Like we're also going to do it supplementation and nutrition. And so he would get blood work all the time. And, all these functional people are pay out of pocket, which,
Mhm. Don't
but
blame them.
yeah, I know. But we went that route as well. And the nutrition supported his body through chemo, through radiation, and he didn't miss a day of work all throughout his cancer treatment. We went on 2 hikes a week, and those hikes like sustained him. And we just like all ate the same food. And the food was vegetables, very few fruits, very few like, tubers like sweet potatoes, and a ton of high quality meat. It was like high quality lamb, beef, salmon, tuna. So, and then Noelle and I were just like, this is the second doctor who looks at the body holistically that we're getting this message from. The first being my OBGYN at the time when I, first went on my acne journey. And then, with my dad, and we just decided, let's just try it and let's like all cook the same food. Let's try it together, and never went back. And, I think from like a environmental and like, what's the word? I guess speciesism, just like, these are like sentient beings that we're eating. I still do have pangs in my heart. And also, I just don't believe in like sacrificing my wellness for anything, anything. And, I mean, we can get into like so many tangents with this, and maybe we'll do another episode on that, but I just wanted to close that loop.
Yeah, no, I think it was great. I think it's just, thank you for sharing your story about acne and bringing in that layer, because even just outside of, the specificity around veganism or not veganism or carnivore or keto or, whatever, all of the many ways to eat that there are now. It's a good thing to remember that nutrition, it plays a huge role in hormones.
Yes.
Hormones are made of cholesterol.
Yes.
And so good quality fat is a huge piece of that. And mostly animal products have good cholesterol, eggs, all of that. So yeah, not that we're diving into that, but for anybody listening, I think it's a good gem. If it resonates with anybody out there. So
thanks for adding that in.
Yeah, man, acne.
Hormone
know we were going to
cycles.
talk about that. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that was pre-baby. And then clearly we both had healthy cycles when we got pregnant, because you got pregnant on first try and I got pregnant by accident.
Yep.
And then the shit fuck of pregnancy and postpartum and the epic drop off. We just watched Finding Nemo, and I'm like, it's the drop off. It's the drop off when the baby and the placenta come out. It is the fucking drop off. Okay,
Yeah.
The hormonal drop off. We'll add a picture here so you guys can see, because it's crazy. It's the largest hormonal drop off in the human experience, both men and women. Right there, we experience it, and we're also like taking care of a baby, and our bodies are split open. And I mean, there's just like so many. We definitely have to have an episode on postpartum specifically, I feel like. But and then there's breastfeeding, which, you have prolactin, and what's the other one?
Is there something else?
It's prolactin, and then there's more oxytocin. I know that breastfeeding. And then wait, let's talk about when our cycles came back. When did your cycle come back?
9 months. Well, I was still breastfeeding.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you think or have the idea in your head that your cycle won't come back until after you stop breastfeeding?
That's what I thought.
That's what everybody tells you.
That's what I definitely, I got my cycle back at 3 months, and I was so sad about it, because I was just getting into a groove of feeling like even keel from like the drop off. The Finding Nemo drop off.
Love that.
Then I got my cycle back, and I was like, whoa, like what? I have to now deal with the fluctuations of my hormones on top of all of this. And so I was super sad. I really thought I was just going to have a few months of being even keel, but I didn't.
It was really quick. I mean, 3 months is really quick.
I don't know why that happened, but it did. There's people that get pregnant like 6 or 7 weeks postpartum.
Yeah.
There's some people that maybe it's genetic. whatever.
I mean, it's just, yeah, we're all very, like humans, we're the same in so many ways. And also that we're so vastly different at the same time, too,
Yeah.
especially hormonally.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the fact that you got pregnant again, like you did unintentionally, your cycle was healthy, like your hormone, I feel like it's a great sign that your body was just recovering really well.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I understand it coming back so soon. Do you remember if it was painful or intense, the bleed?
You mentioned that the other day in a voice note, and I was like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it, I feel like it wasn't. There was like
I think that's what you said. I think
zero
it was like
cramping.
painless.
Yeah, completely painless. And it has gotten increasingly more sensational. There's more sensation the further I get from birth, but it's nowhere near what my cramps used to be.
Mm. Before.
And I think I have a different relationship with, I mean, now that I know where my cervix is because of birth, I know what it feels like when it's opening. And the process of birthing naturally, and I say that only because I've never birthed with a epidural, birthing vaginally without pain medication. I don't know if maybe this does apply there too, but it's about breathing down and allowing that to open, right? And so now knowing that my cervix is opening up to 1 centimeter when I'm on my period, I have like this different relationship with just breathing down and letting it open, right?
Mhm.
Instead of like contracting around it. So I don't know if that's part of why it's less painful,
Yeah.
but what about you?
Yeah. So mine came back at 9 months, like we said. And yeah, I also don't really remember. I don't remember what those first ones were like. But I had 3 that were like 45 days apart. Were yours regular for right away?
Wow.
Yeah, they were 45 days apart for like three cycles.
Wow. No, mine were, I think the longest I had was 35. The first one was like 35 and then they were regular.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they were
took a minute to get.
Yep. And then they got shorter. And then now they've been kind of shorter after we weaned at 20 months is when they got 26 days,
Mm.
which is pretty short compared to what mine was before, which was typically 28 to 30 days.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was pretty, I would say besides just the time, the length, my symptoms, quote unquote, felt pretty normal. Like it wasn't anything different, similar. There was probably some differences from pre-baby, but it wasn't until after breastfeeding. That's when I've been experiencing just this craziness. And yeah,
Sorry, I didn't know you were done.
well, I was just going to ask, the hormonal shift when you stop breastfeeding is another time postpartum that women talk about. That's another hormonal shift.
Mm-hmm.
What was yours like with Rhea?
Well, yeah, okay.
And then I'll talk about mine.
Okay, because you just said I'm experiencing this craziness.
Yeah,
and
well, talk about it.
No,
But I just wanna compare.
You're baiting us. You're just baiting us.
Yeah.
You're baiting us with this shit.
Yeah.
Here's a little dangle.
Here's a little dangle.
Well, because we're kind of like pinpoint on the physical stuff, like
Yeah.
physical cramps, whatever you with your stuff you've been dealing with. But I would say like, my rage and like my depression and my intolerance, being touched out, being overwhelmed, being overstimulated, way more intense postpartum. I mean, like tenfold.
Yeah.
And when I stopped breastfeeding, I had an opposite. My cycles are better. I have more tolerance. I have more space. I have more bandwidth to hold her and myself. I feel like when I was breastfeeding, I don't know if it was all the oxytocin or I think estrogen and progesterone, we have to put up a graph, but estrogen and progesterone, I believe, are lower than a typical non-breastfeeding woman when you're breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was the combination of the two. I don't know, but I was definitely more emotional.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, that's a good layer. I feel like breastfeeding, yeah, at night was challenging. And it's hard to say whether it was hormonal, like if I would relate it to, like,
Well,
I'm like,
did you?
was it just because it was challenging overall, or
Yeah.
was it like my hormonal state? It was definitely more challenging in luteal though. Like I always felt better in my
Right.
follicular.
Same.
Yeah. And then immediately like ovulation. And then it was like, all right, here we go.
I would almost stop I'm like, maybe we should just
Right.
like not be breastfeeding anymore.
Yeah.
Every single time we got to luteal, I was like,
I know.
I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's tough, especially at night for both of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then so the craziness, I stopped breastfeeding mid-January. Mid-February we moved, and I had a bleed like 2 days after we were in our new house, and I couldn't take Theo to gymnastics cuz my cramps are so bad. And for me it's always in the morning, the day after I start, or has been. And so it wasn't like terrible, but it was a couple hours where I was just had to lay down. And then I had another bleed and it was okay. And then the next ovulation, I thought I was pregnant because I was having mild nausea, my whole luteal. And you were too. Very mild.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it was there and I was like, what is this? Is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
and then that was the bleed that I had. So my third bleed post weaning was awful. It was the worst period I've ever had in my whole life. I was squirming in pain on the couch. It was like a contraction that never ended, you know? It was just like, I can't. And vomiting. I was vomiting into Theo's little potty, which was honestly so convenient because I didn't have to get up. It's like, thank God. But yeah, I was vomiting. It was 3 hours. It was 8 a.m. to 11.
Wow.
Oh my God. I was like, why is this happening? And then anyways, so that was, I hope, the peak. And then this past cycle, post-ovulation, and exactly a week after I ovulated, I kind of had an episode like that where in the morning I just felt so bad. Threw up once and then I was okay. And then I just started my bleed 2 days ago.
You did throw up. You did throw up.
I did throw up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in my luteal. I think that must have been a progesterone spike.
There's a little progesterone spike, and then there's another one about a week in. So
that's exactly what it
might
was.
be that without the estrogen to like maybe take the edge off.
Yeah. And so anyways, this bleed has been better, but that's what you told me was you can become more sensitive progesterone postpartum. And for me, it's obviously been post-weaning. Where my hormones are now, I think, more dynamic now that that layer of the prolactin is gone and my hormones are actually going through more dynamic fluctuations like they normally were. But post-pregnancy body apparently she's sensitive. And it's just so humbling. I shared it on my Instagram story. I was like, I'm constantly humbled by all of this stuff because I know that there are women out there who've experienced something similar to me. And I just remember feeling like, is something wrong with me? Do I need to go am I sick? Do I have cancer? Am I like, it's because it was so just out of the blue. And anyways, and so, yeah, that's just for me specifically recently, that's been a huge humbling moment and a moment for me to just see other women in that way, other women who have kids, and just you never know what they may be feeling in their bodies with their hormones. And yeah, a way we can connect on a deeper level with each other as mothers, because nobody tells you these things.
We do. We're like, I'm going to bleed tomorrow.
Except for, yeah.
We're those friends.
Well, and I hope everybody has those. Yeah, cycle sisters. I hope everybody has friends like that too, because it's so, oh my gosh, it's a lifesaver.
I agree. Totally. Yeah, thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot post-weaning for you. But I also like, context sometimes is everything. Because right before you weaned, you were super sick.
Yeah,
So
that's true
maybe
too.
nutritionally you were a little depleted and then you moved.
I know, did so much.
So I'm like also wondering if your cycle's a reflection of your period is a reflection of your cycle and like maybe yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
some
know.
repletion
Yeah.
that can happen.
Yeah.
Totally. I think so too, because I've been so that's one other thing. Before weaning, I've had some acne come back, but it's super
Mm,
mild.
mhm.
But it would be with, ovulation or before bleed. And it's been actually pretty good. But this past cycle, no, the past 2 cycles I've had some pop up. And so yeah, you just talking about the nutritional piece for you with the acne,
Mm.
it's just it's definitely something to consider because breastfeeding is so much and definitely nutrient depleting. I'm just like trying to eat enough food, when you're breastfeeding is, oh man. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we're
This
about to be in summer. So just like you were talking about at the beginning of this, time for replenishing, ovulation, feeling good, getting all the vitamin D.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, which we went to a functional doctor for Rhea just to, like, establish care and just to get another opinion about, her sleep and, her still to this day not sleeping through the night at 2 years old. We're like and, my intuition is like, she's fine. It's just her temperament, and she's just so busy and mentally active, but also maybe her vitamin D's low, maybe her iron's low, maybe her K or her zinc. Because the truth is, even if you eat a completely whole foods diet today, like there's such nutritional depletion and not just the food, the soil itself. So, and then he was like, well, being in Colorado, everyone should be on a vitamin D because with the angle of the sun, we literally can't get enough vitamin D.
Hmm.
And so yeah. Anyways, so that's
Yeah. Another
just
underlying piece of,
another element of like,
yeah.
where do you live? And
Oh, for
if it's
sure.
somewhere with seasons, like, you probably should be on a D. Get that D.
I know. I know.
um, but yeah, you did mention, and I guess we were focusing so much on like the physicality that I was like, wait, there's the
Emotional
emotional piece
piece.
too. But yeah, I was dealing with mild nausea.
Hmm.
I was dealing with like heightened sense of smell, mild nausea, cravings. Like I just didn't have these pregnancy-esque symptoms before I was pregnant.
Hmm.
And now that I've been pregnant and have a baby, I'm more sensitive to progesterone,
Yeah.
like mimicking pregnancy. And it's just kind of trippy now that we're trying to get pregnant because
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can smell.
I
I
know.
can smell Ryan upstairs. Like I'm
I
definitely pregnant.
know. I know.
like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like an art to not fixate on those potential symptoms. And now that this is cycle 4 of trying to get pregnant and I'm like experiencing these things, I'm
Yeah.
kind of like more relaxed about it and, have no expectations.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, the emotional piece.
Yeah, I was going to say, something you've dropped in is the cycle syncing,
Mhm.
and again, I started this episode with talking about how should we record, should we not record in our luteals? Like, is it the best time? And I think we'll both say that recording this episode hasn't been the easiest flow being in this state. Well, I'm technically not in late luteal anymore, but still bleeding. But yeah, and like honoring that is as mothers and or as working women, working and mothering mothers is not for the faint of heart. It
No.
is a challenge. And so I'm just curious like what your experience has been with trying to honor your cycle now that you've become a mother.
Yeah. Experience trying to honor. I mean, I will say, just to piggyback on what you just said, it was important for us to we had this moment where we were like, maybe we should just batch all of our episodes in our follicular because that's when we feel the best. And that's when, but then it was like, that's not showing the full picture of womanhood. And that's like, what, we're just not going to be relatable in our luteal,
Yeah.
Like, let's show it. Let's show up because the majority of women are showing up for work and they're showing up for family and they're continuing to have to show up. And we are also showing up. We're just lowering our expectations on how we show up, having more grace with ourselves, which I guess, this is just kind of rolling into my answer of your question. Yeah, just I think for me, lowering my expectations and mothering specifically, I mean, we lean on the TV more. I mean, especially it's been a cold and rainy week here, and we are getting outside, we are doing our things, our play dates, and also we watched Finding Dory this morning, and like there's no guilt. Like I used to feel a certain level of guilt around just putting on the TV for Rhea, which I know you have had that layer come in with like Theo and golf and just,
Yeah, I'll speak to it
Yeah.
when you're done. Yeah.
But yeah, like I think lowering expectations, leaning on other resources, leaning on community, um, asking for help, asking for more help from my partner. I have to tell Ryan right when I get to luteal and then a couple days before I bleed. Because right when I go into luteal, that initial drop of estrogen, it's a lot for me emotionally. And then the physical like tiredness starts to really pick up a couple days before period. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm slowing down. I'm slowing down. Like we're ordering food tonight, and instead of cooking um, yeah, I just say like not expecting the same thing of yourself that you're able to output on the first half of your cycle is just like a game changer. And it sounds so simple and not like a huge bomb drop, but that's really the biggest thing for me that helps me mother and show up in this space more sustainably.
Yeah. No, I forget every time. It's when I'm in my follicular, the first half of my cycle, I'm like, yeah, let's do this and this and this and blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, that making that switch, even for me, is challenging every time, just remembering because when you're feeling good, you think you're going to keep feeling good, and
And you
it's
want
not,
to feel,
yeah, and you want to, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I love that answer and you tying in how you communicate it with Ryan and let him know. And again, I kind of spoke to that, educating our partners around it, bringing them into it as well too. So you guys are on the same page. I think that's so great that you guys prioritize that. Yeah, and I do with Travis as well too. But yeah, you just talking about the TV. I mean, when I was vomiting, I was alone with my toddler, and so yeah, I'm like, baby, you want to watch golf? Yeah. And
Twist my
so,
arm.
yeah, yep. Yeah, that's a good thing to lean on as well too. The other thing we did yesterday morning when I was bleeding, going super slow, was we took a bath in the morning, and it was so nice. I was like, I like this. I like this. Just going and sitting in the bath and him playing with his froth bombs and whatever. But you kind of have to get creative, I feel like, when you dip into the luteal land of what does that look like? What does it look like to take things off your plate? And yeah, I mean, I think even for us podcasting, it's been an interesting way for us to understand how to create something and how to work, right? I mean, props to all the working moms. You guys are badasses, super moms.
Yeah.
For real. Like,
Yeah.
oh man. I don't even know like where to go with that. You just deserve applause. I see you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because the world that we live in it never sleeps. It never sleeps. I mean, it's crazy. I remember when the stores would close on Christmas and New Year's and deliveries would only be made Monday through Friday, and now deliveries are made 24/7. Like literally the world never sleeps. When I was growing up and couldn't sleep and I would just like go watch QVC because that was the only freaking thing on. And now it's like you can stream anything at any time, anywhere. There's constantly, it's just nonstop. And yet that's not the way our cycles work. And so it's like we have to really be um, sovereign in the way that we show up in the world and know what we need, because the world is not going to cater to what we need. We have to construct our lives to cater to us. and what's going to serve us in terms of longevity and showing up for our family in a sustainable way. Um, and yeah, and then you add in, I mean, that's the world we live in, and then our cycles. But then there's also the dynamics of motherhood, which are just never not changing. And our children are never not changing. And so we have this cycle that, you know, is happening. And then I told you this story on a voice note, but we never told it here. When I was in Bailey for that little vacation that we did with my little family, we went to this restaurant and it was a winery and I wasn't drinking at the time. So I'm just like observing everyone getting smashed on wine. And the table next to me, they were there way before we got there and they were there after we left. But the man was just like talking and talking. And then he's like, but one thing's for sure, when we're going through a hard time in life, our kids need us more. And I was like, that was a mic drop right there, because that is my experience in my cycle. It is clockwork. When my bandwidth lowers in my luteal, when I have less capacity for her, when I want to be more introverted, when my system says self-care, more self-care, more alone time, more quiet time, that's when I don't know if it's, chicken or egg. Like, is it that she senses my shift? And then, our children, when they sense our shift, their system goes, oh, wait, I need to be around my mom more because she's changing. And it's like a little bit insecure. And so like clockwork, when all of Rhea's upgrades, all of Rhea's regressions, everything that challenges me happens when I'm in my luteal, when it comes to motherhood. And, we could say this is for me and my growth and my capacity. And I definitely think I've allowed it to shape me. And especially, I remember when we decided we were going to do this for real in December or November. And then a couple months later, I was like, let's have another baby. I like had this moment with myself where I'm like, you're asking for another baby and you're about to do a podcast. Like, you're barely making this work with Rhea. Mm-hmm. So if you want to do all these things, you have to become the woman that can do these things. Mm-hmm. And so then I started using my luteals as a way to like, iron sharpens iron, baby. Like, mm-hmm. How can we grow? And part of that is actually sometimes doing less. Like, it's kind of like a, what's the word? Oxymoron. It's an oxymoron. Mm-hmm. But just to wrap that up, there's the world that never sleeps, the world that's always changing and screaming at us to do more and be more. And then there's our cycles, which are the rhythm that we can anchor into as women to survive this world and to survive motherhood. And I mean, if you have girls, to teach them about the cyclical nature of being a woman. And if you have boys, to teach them about the cyclical nature about being a woman. Mm-hmm. It is essential for both of us to understand. I mean, Ryan grew up with two sisters, and pretty much everything he knows about a cycle is from me. Yeah. And I'm like, really, men are just like out here raw dogging their women without any knowledge. And I don't mean that like, yeah, I know. Actually, but like, you're raw dogging life in your relationship without knowing her cycles. I feel like it's the biggest romance hack. Yeah. Just learn her fucking cycle. I know. But yeah, I guess like, our pitch here is just get to know your cycle and attune your life to it. What I do think is interesting, an interesting thing to consider is how you maybe want to lean on village to entertain or provide social stimulation for your child, and yet you feel less social. And so there's kind of like this, how do I navigate that? Do you deal with that in your luteal?
I mean, my village is really like leaving. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's definitely, I feel like the most leaning on village. Yeah. If I am in a low capacity place, it would be me leaving my child with a child, with Tanya, somebody, with somebody else, right? So I can actually go, yeah, because if I'm just hanging out with my village, it's not restorative necessarily.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah,
Same?
I feel the
Yeah.
same. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of guilt associated with that. I
Mm.
think moms, for a lot of women, they feel like that's not good for the child maybe, or that they should be able to provide
All of that?
everything for their child. And that's actually something, a year ago I posted that story and asking women in the community what conversations they wanted more of. And mom guilt is like super
Super.
prevalent. Moms are like, I have to leave my child with at the daycare or whatever.
Mhm.
And yeah, while I do understand it, I've had to work through my own layers around guilt because having multiple caregivers is actually super healthy and beneficial for a child.
Mhm.
Um, and so I just wanted to also say, just plug that, if for any moms who are listening, they have the layer of like guilt when they need time away and they need self-care, this this
Yeah.
layer of guilt that to have more
Did
grace with yourself because it's actually good. Even if the child protests, it's
Mhm.
actually good and it builds resilience and it builds secure attachment. And, when we lived in villages, children would have up to 9 caretakers throughout the day on average. And so if you think about what that would be like for you as a parent, you'd have so much free space to tend to the home, to tend to meal, and then when all the kids come to your house, it's exciting and you're entertaining them and you're interacting with them. And then they're like, all right, let's go to Tia's house. And then
Mhm.
so, this world that we live in post industrial revolution is not the world that we evolved in, our species evolved in to be optimal. And so we have to have grace with ourselves when it comes to like outsourcing a village because it's not healthy for me to be everything to my partner. It's not healthy for me to be everything to my friends. And it's not healthy for us to be everything for our children.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I think it's just, I mean, I feel like that's a question we always come back to that we all have to answer for ourselves and figure out as we move through this life as women, as mothers, is how do we remember our nature and
Mm.
who we are and our cycles? Like you've just so beautifully like talked through that whole yeah, just that whole rant. But it was like there was so many truth bombs in there and internal dilemmas of meeting meeting our cycles, getting to know our cycles, and how we make the choice to honor it or not, right? And whether we have the convenience and the privilege to honor it or not. And at the end of the day, I think we all have a choice. It's not just, do I have the means or do I not have the means? I think ultimately it's a soul level choice to decide on how you want to how make your life a reflection of who you are and what you value. But yeah, and then just taking it from our cycles, and then all the way to the village, just our children, and the fact that we don't have to be everything for them, nor should we feel like that is the best thing for them. And so, yeah, I feel like our cycles are a really good opportunity for women and mothers to remember that they don't have to do it all by themselves.
Wow.
Just to sum up what you said,
I mean, that was such a beautiful, like, full circle tie-in.
you
Yeah.
took you took me
I
on.
queued you up.
You queued me up, girl. I was like, oh man, but yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah,
it's soul work, soul work.
soul work it is. And it privilege and it's privilege from a certain perspective, um, because how deciding that we're going to align with our cycles doesn't always look like for my luteal, I'm going to drop my kid off all day so I can go self-care. It looks like this morning, instead of going for a walk, we're going to take a bath together. For me this morning, it was baby, we're going to make pancakes and we're going to go lay on the couch and watch Finding Dory. That was us honoring our luteal and deciding on a soul level, I'm going to show myself, choose for myself, and thus teach my child that rest is good, rest is productive, if you want to call it like that. And that different seasons demand and benefit from different outputs and inputs, right? So, yeah, I didn't know we were going to end here, but I kind of love it.
I kind of love it too. And I think it's really cool that you have a daughter that you're modeling all this with, and I have a son.
Yeah.
And they're both necessary. And it's just really cool to see it's going to be cool to see how they're both being exposed to our cycles, in this way, and our hormones, and as we get to know them, and as I'm puking every now and then, Theo knows it's because of my hormones and my cycle. And
how does he react?
Oh, it's very Theo. It's very, Mama's puking. Mama's puking.
That's actually hilarious to
I
me.
know. I'm like,
this is like, Ray would be like, "Oh, Mommy K, are you okay?"
He actually, when we took a bath, he saw some of my blood come out, and he was like, Mama, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, baby, it's my blood.
Yeah.
There's no baby in there, so that's what happens.
Wow.
I'm like, you came out of there. He's like, phew. I'm like, no, you did not come out of there that fast. I mean, you came fast, but you didn't come out of me that fast. So,
where did he even get that?
I think it's because I did my hand. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyways,
but wait, what last thing I'll say is that even though you have a boy, witnessing Theo in his upgrades is somewhat like, I mean, all kids, but I feel like Theo, when it comes, the way that Rhea goes through her upgrades is mostly sleep regression.
When we say upgrades, we're talking about quote unquote regressions. Yeah,
regressions, which I don't understand, but they do regress in some ways. But mostly they're upgrading. Which, anyways, that's
just what we're talking about.
Yeah,
just for context.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, witnessing the way that you have to kind of tweak his exposures and just like cater more to his sensitivities that happen, it does kind of mirror what we're talking about. Like on a soul level, I'm not going to push my kid past his capacity. I'm going to meet him where he is. And that's what it is. It's meeting ourselves where we are and having the courage because for me, it is courage to tell people, like we have a friend who is like, oh, let's get together tomorrow. And I'm like, I've just kind of been like not answering, but I'm realizing I need to tell her like, hey girl, sorry, I'm feeling super introverted and let's put a pin in it until next week, so.
Yeah, being able to set the loving boundaries and openly, about just how you're feeling and knowing that it's not going to be the best experience for that person either.
Right.
But I do love what you said about meeting ourselves and meeting our kids, because ultimately, like, that's always the work of doing this for ourselves, is we can hopefully do it better with our kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have more grace and understanding when they're going through regressions, or as we call them, upgrades, or whatever it is, because they're going through so much
all the time,
especially the first 3 years developmentally are like, and I can't even imagine beyond in the teenage years and all that stuff. Like, it's so much for a little nervous system and a little tiny human it's just all coming in, and their awareness of the world is expanding, and how scary that must be. And and so just being able to not view them as consistent little engines that just go, 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 go. They have in their own ways, Theo has in his and Rhea has in hers, their ways. I mean, and the more we know that about them, the more it's just going to teach them that cycle too.
Yeah.
Because men have cycles as well. And, well, hormonally it's 24 hours. So
Lucky shits.
nice. Must be nice. But still, like with their emotional selves and their emotional bodies, because we're complex and we're not just hormones. You know, we have layers, subtle layers to us energetically and emotionally and mentally and all of that. And so it's important, just like having a son, to know that it's not like it doesn't apply to him. It does.
Right.
Yeah. And him to be able to see the feminine in that way too, witness his mother going through those fluctuations and knowing that she's honoring herself, and he's going to hopefully, my hope, be able to, see the women in his life, however that may be, in that same way.
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. The end.
I'm like, I feel like we should just leave it there.
I feel like we should, yeah.
Such a beautiful wrap up. Thank you for sharing all of that. And thank you guys for sticking with us. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. And down below in the show notes, you'll find all the links to the books that we chatted about. And we'll see you guys next time in our podcast studio.
Yes, we will see you there.
Bye, guys.
Bye.